Okay,
Well, I
so
can't wait to see everybody's show and tells. And,
I'm gonna have to do this on gallery view, I think, so I can see what's everybody's reactions. All right, here we go. Letting in all the folks. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello, hello,
Hello.
hello, 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 everybody.
Guten Tag, my friends.
Happy
Hello.
surprise.
Hello.
Good to see you. It's great to see everybody. Finally made it. Finally made it. Look at all these lovely smiling faces. Gorgeousness. Hurrah.
Let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. This week's theme, as you know, is arts and crafts. And with that, I'm going to throw it to Sid.
Oh my gosh.
First time in weeks.
Hi. It's here in very cold Estonia. It's actually not as cold as it was a couple of days ago when it was so cold it would have tuned your banjo for you. It's been tremendous working with a really lovely young crew who have only just really started. I mean, they all at film school together, the director, the actor, the producer, and they've kind of muscled out and started making their own horror movies. And this one is called, should I say the name? I should probably say the name. It's a terrible, terrible name. It's called Kill the Child. So there you have it. Quite the thing. The sort of thing you'd just love to watch. Should we watch Kill the Child? Maybe we should watch Kill the Dog. I don't know. We're making Kill the Child. I have absolutely no idea if it's going to be called that when it comes to it. But there's a famous German actor called Thomas Kretschmann in it, who's a brilliant actor. He's been in everything, all the way kind of back to Schindler's List and all sorts of things. And they're just great. But I like kind of psychological horror movies, anything with the kind of devil involved and stuff, because it's kind of plausible. So it scares the living daylights out of me. I don't know if anyone saw Omen or, Exorcist or any of those sort of things, but they're like that. And it'll be done in 2 weeks and I get to come home and get back to normal Sid City Social Club, which will be so much fun.
Okay, Jennifer, do you want to start?
Hi all, I'm Jennifer. My first master's degree is in medieval studies because, you do. And I fell in love with Middle Ages when I was in high school. And for me, the gateway drug was illuminated manuscripts of all things. And I wanted to learn how to do that. And so instead of starting with manuscripts, I started with a lampshade and Lord of the Rings. So
oh, wow.
Just a regular parchment style lampshade, and said, you know what I should do? I should put the map of Middle Earth on that. So that's what I decided to do. This is just ballpoint pen, which for my fellow crafty folks, if you have a good idea of how to seal this, I've never quite figured that one out. I can never get this wet because then I have to redo it.
Oh my goodness.
But that is the entire map, which it's a trip putting a rectangle on a circle, I'll tell you that much. And I just freehanded it over the course of about 8 months. And then a friend of mine who is also a Lord of the Rings fan saw it and said, hey, that's super, super cool. So I made him one. So that's in his office. He's a chaplain in a hospital across the state. So that was the beginning of me saying, look, I'm really bad at drawing picture type stuff, but maybe lettering, which, that bit is where I can go.
Magnificent, Jennifer. Really beautiful. Wow.
It's super fun now that I know how to do it. I could turn out several of these. So after I figured out how to do this and decided that the lettering was good, I said, let's do some more fandom dorkiness. I taught myself actual
Star Wars.
So I taught myself actual calligraphy because somebody gave me a Ken Newman 1970s metal nib calligraphy set that they'd picked up in a garage sale. And I said, what better to do with this than teach myself how to write down the Star Wars crawls. This was the second one that I did, actually, and it is episode 6. And it was for a friend of mine. This was his favorite film. I will admit that the Stormtrooper and the Ewok are stenciled. They're traced and then put on. But one of the things about illuminated manuscripts, in my master's degree, I took a semester on paleography, which is the study of manuscripts and how they're built, how they're put together, what the naming is, how to make the inks and the parchment, and the history of what we would call type fonts, but obviously they're not types because they're scribes. So the hands and how to read somebody's hands. And one of my tattoos now is a very specific 12th century medieval abbreviation. In the middle of part of the Vulgate text of the 23rd Psalm. My nerd cred just keeps going up. Yeah, so this one was after I had kind of gotten my feet under me a little bit with what is called general Gothic style. This one might be a bit more familiar to you, Sid, and my fellow Star Trek folks.
These are beautiful, Jennifer.
Thank you very much. They were a lot of fun to plot out. So this is actually based on a real page from the 14th century. It's from a psalm book of some wealthy patron or other. So this was commissioned by a person who is also a Deep Space Nine fan and wanted that sort of marriage of Garrick and Bashir. So we have the Federation on the top and the Obsidian Order on the bottom. And that quote is a Garrick quote. That T is a wood block, is my version of a wood block from about the 15th century. So this is a pastiche of a bunch of different things. Working straight through this one took me only about 3 days, but it was an awful lot of measuring to make sure that things fit where they were supposed to. And this is not Gothic script, it's more of a generic calligraphic script. So I grew up in a house that had a lot of the plaques that are like, home is where the heart is, which I say in that kind of voice because that's what I think of them. And when I was in divinity school and I needed some creative stuff to deal with the fact that I was trying to argue Christology every day, like you do, I thought about those plaques and thought about, okay, what would it look like if I designed some that actually meant things that are home. This was the first one of home is where it's never wrong to be yourself, because as somebody who has to parse out who I am in any given situation, it's a really delightful idea to think about home being somewhere where I can just show up and be like, this is who I am. So thanks, club. You've got it. So home is SCSC, I think, is really what the next one is going to be. But one of my really, really good friends is also a reader, which you can't see, but it's next door to my library, which is 6 bookshelves and then books on the floor. And this is Jorge Luis Borges quote. But again, I was messing around with the idea of an illuminated manuscript. So in that L, there's a dude at a desk and there are some books underneath him. And then there are Celtic scrolls going up the middle, because this particular style of writing, which that's another thing, I had to teach myself how to write right-handed when I taught myself calligraphy, because you have to get special nibs if you're lefty and it's just too much hassle. So this is an Irish style of writing that is based kind of in the Book of Kells. And this I did for my brother. This one is episode 4, yeah. And it was an awful lot of fun trying to figure out that ladder of them getting out of the trash compactor. So the little worm dude is at the bottom even.
Oh, marvelous.
One of the things that I also do is knit. And this was done for a Trekkie friend of mine. It is a batleth. It is entirely yarn. It's not my pattern. I did not make that part. I just sat and for the first month of the lockdown, this is what I did.
That's the kind of batleth I'm really happy to be hit by. I'd love to be hit by that batleth.
It is very long. I did not.
Any way you want.
I did not think about how long it would be, but if you just sort of like hold it from the tip to the bottom, it's like about 6.5 feet.
Wow.
It is a heckin' scarf.
That's fantastic. That was just beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Illumination is one of the most beautiful things. My stepfather used to collect books, and some of the things that he would collect were facsimiles of 15th century, 16th century works, and they take your breath away. And you've got that calligraphy down. That is really, really lovely.
Well, thank you. So if anybody wants me to make a thing, I never make stuff just to make stuff. I only make it if it's for somebody, because I'm goal-oriented like that. But yeah, the style of medieval manuscripts especially is so funny because they are breathtakingly gorgeous. And like, I don't get into gold leaf and stuff because I don't have patience for it. But just the ways in which they use materials. And then they will have some ridiculous thing in the side of like a penis tree or something, because, you know, definitely this needs to be on the page of Mary. And it's so wild how the sacred and the secular are just jammed up against each other in so many manuscripts. And one of the things that was in the syllabus for my paleography class was from a particular medieval manuscript where at the end of it, the monk wrote, "I am so cold, I am so tired, this is the end of the story." Just great. I'm like, same, monk.
You can believe it. They were freezing and tired and hungry, probably. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. Well, you know what? one of the things that's going on in this film that I'm making, I play a cardinal who's an Assyriologist. So he's a language expert and looks at all these cuneiform and Akkadian languages and trying to figure out. And there's this one language he can't figure out. So he gets this other dude, Father Fox, who is kind of he's pretty foxy, played by this lovely guy called Leroy Kuntz. He's like another Assyriologist or a linguistics expert of sorts. It's based in all this in this ancient calligraphy and texts and drawings and wild interpretations of what's going on.
If you have a particular favorite line from the film that you end up with, I'll do an illuminated manuscript page for you. How about that?
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Susanna and her dad are going to come.
It's Susanna.
Yes, it is me. Hey, yes. So, my dad.
Thanks, Jennifer. Sorry, Susanna.
Sorry. My dad, he loves Rubik's cubes. He's also sometimes a teeny tiny bit insane, and it shows in a really weird ways. So, his latest insanity he has created is this Rubik's cube that can show practically any time's date. Yes, sorry, date.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's your place.
You are. Sit down.
Hi, Dad.
That's
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, that was quite easy. Set of bunch of letters and numbers, and in the morning. Yeah, that's yesterday. Oh, sorry, I forgot. In the morning is to set the correct date. It's not so hard as you could imagine. It's quite easy because it's just one side of the cube. It's not whole the cube.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, I might be able
solve.
to
This was not the biggest challenge to solve it, but to design it. Because it's necessary to think about all the combinations of months, of date, of day, and to draw the correct positions for several letters to be able to solve really every date.
How long would it take you to do Friday the 19th of March?
From Thursday to Friday? Just few. Okay. I can do that. That's easy. It's not so complicated. Because, it's not so. No problem. Sorry. Okay, so Friday 19.
Nicely done.
It's very easy because I don't have to. I don't have to solve the march.
Of course. That's really cool. See, it would take me a long time. You're brilliant. It's really good. Susanna, how do you and your dad share this love for Rubik's?
We don't. I hate Rubik's Cube. I cannot work them. He loves them.
And you have hundreds around the house.
Weird creations.
I have very nice photo when she was 3 years old, just 3 years old.
Shut up.
Oh.
Yeah, she was sitting on a toilet and solving Rubik's cubes.
We're witnessing patricide live on Zoom. Oh, that's very sweet. You're too young, I think, to have been around when the first Rubik's Cube was a craze all around the world.
No, I was 12 or 13 when was the biggest or the first cube mania, or how to call it.
Oh, my goodness. Did you get involved?
At the first, I've learned some techniques, but later I made my own algorithms to solve nearly any cube.
That's fantastic. My goodness. That's really wonderful. So what do you want to do on your show and tell, Susanna?
Show off my father's Rubik's Cube. And
I'm happy to see it.
Right.
It's lovely to meet you. It's lovely to meet you. He's done a very good job. It's actually really amazing. I'm guessing he's a mathematician.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Is he?
Yes, mathematics is the best thing I know.
That's pretty damn good for me.
Because we have like a little collection of those Rubik's Cubes. There are some quite bizarre apart from this one.
I love that one.
And some people asked for it. So my dad is going to bring one of those that are like absolutely mind-blowing.
Which one?
They're gold.
The small one? This is just 2 to 2.
Oh, brother.
This is my biggest one. It's 9 to 9 to 9.
I'm speechless. I don't know where you would begin with that.
Then there is this one. It is a Rubik's Cube, but it has like different sides completely. So like you can see.
Wow.
But it's a Rubik's Cube.
And it ends up as a cube.
It ends up as a cube, yes.
That's fantastic. I had no idea. See, I was so intimidated by the first round of Rubik's that I just never got involved with the second or the third. I remember sitting at school trying to solve the thing. It just drove me nuts. And there were probably about 2 or 3 kids at school who could do it.
I was terrible at them too. My secret was to peel the stickers off and then just cut them.
Yeah, that's the like best way if you want to like cheat.
I just read someone in the chat just said, because I can see the chat for the first time, because I'm on my iPad and it's above in the top right, so I occasionally catch it. And they said, am I on location? And the answer is yes, I am on location in this very nice hotel in Tallinn, Estonia. So that's my little hotel room and all my stuff.
Somebody asked about the time
You
difference.
managed to solve it.
You did it.
It's a cube.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. And we weren't watching. How can you? Oh, I'm furious. It's my fault because I was talking. That is spectacular, Susanna. I love the fact that you have put Susanna, she, they, chaos. So we're allowed to refer to you as chaos as well if we feel like it. That's fantastic. Brilliant. Your father is delightful.
Yeah.
Have you been hanging out together throughout the whole of COVID?
Well, I had to stay at home because online school, and he sometimes is at home, sometimes he's not, because like sometimes he's in home office, sometimes he actually has to go to work.
So what does your dad do? Does he mind me asking?
Well, he's not here.
Because he's
but-
clearly brilliant.
Well, he always has
You don't.
like these like really weird jobs that do not really have a name. So right now what he does is he like makes things that go off, like when there's a car on the line, they have to know where it is at any time, and it will like alert them if something like starts to something like catches on fire, because that would be a really bad thing in like the huge place it is. That's basically what he does.
So he's kind of an electronic engineer.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's brilliant. Okay. And apart from chaos, which I absolutely love as a personal pronoun, how do you define yourself in terms of career and in terms of what you liked?
You know, you actually asked me that thing when we talked for the first time.
And I've forgotten, haven't I? I'm sorry.
It's all right, because I told you I had no idea.
Oh, do you have an idea?
I have to have, because, well, it's my last year of high school right now, and if I didn't know, my parents would be very angry. But the plan is to study multimedia economics, like together. That's what I would love to. And if that kind of like blows up, there is like informatics, which would basically just mean I would know how to create programs and stuff like that, or arts management, which would be like, yeah, I would take care of galleries.
What a great idea. I mean, you could do the whole thing all at the same time. All of those things you're excited about can come into one. You can curate a wonderful multimedia exhibition of economic theory that actually makes sense to everybody.
Yeah, that's like, even before that, I wanted to kind of study media, but well, my parents being the like people who want you to like have something that will earn you money, especially now in this economy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm a parent. I understand.
So like they were like kind of looking for stuff that would like make it better, looking better.
Have you already started studying economics? So do you know about certain economic theory?
I guess, well, no, but I guess if someone like talk about certain stuff, I would be like, yeah, I understand it.
Because in the States, they're obsessed with, I'm not there now, but they're obsessed with something called trickle-down economics, which basically means we give all our money to the richest people we can find and hope that we get some of it later, I think. I mean, that I'm not quite sure if I'm succinct enough, but I've got a feeling that that's what that means. So we just give everything to the guys up top. And maybe one day they'll give us a little bit because our share prices will rise or something. So that's something you can work on. You can explain to SCSC how trickle economics,
maybe next year or
economics
year after
works.
that, when I actually know what I would be talking about.
I think it would be pretty cool to do a multimedia exhibition of trickle-down economics. Well, I think that's fantastic. I'm really glad you've come up with something that's going to make you lots of money so that your parents are never worried about you.
Time for someone else.
One. Thanks, Susanna.
We tried the trickle-down economics experiment here in Kansas. It was a disaster. Don't do it. It does not work. The
It
end.
doesn't matter how many times you say that, it still gets done.
All right, Savannah, we're going to go to you. Following up on the Rubik's Cube, Savannah has something geometric for us as well.
Yes, very much so.
Hi, Savannah. It's good to see you again.
Hello.
Hello, sweet.
I put on my David Bowie shirt just for you. Mel, I'm counting on you with the PowerPoint.
Because she's lost without it.
Yes, I am. I do a lot of origami, but more specifically, I do modular and geometric origami. I have standard in quotes because this is not a technical distinction at all, but origami, as you think of it, is usually meant to like represent an animal or a shape or something. But there are a couple of other types of origami, one of which are tessellations, which are the two things on the bottom, and the other is modular origami, which is something that is multiple things that are folded and put together. The pictures, the top two are things that are folded and designed by Satoshi Kamiya, who is probably my favorite standard origami designer. And the bottom two are just the best representations that I could find of origami tessellations. I did not fold those, but I folded just about everything on the following slides.
Wow.
So I folded these.
Oh my God.
So an origami tessellation is like a stacked or layered or interlocked geometric shape, because I believe a tessellation on its own is interlocked geometric shapes. So usually instead of just starting from a square and following a set of instructions, you fold a grid of some kind onto a square of paper and then have a crease pattern or maybe a set of instructions on how you basically collapse or refold the folds that you've already made when you fold the grid in order to create the interlocked shapes or the different layers. It is very fiddly to do because you're usually trying to like coax it into behaving more than you're folding it. You're mostly just arguing with it. One of the hallmarks of these things is usually that because they are folded on a grid and because they are a tessellation, you can make them kind of as big as you want, as long as you have a big enough piece of paper to handle a grid of the density that you need. So one of the problems that I frequently run into is not being able to get paper that is big enough. So the two tessellations on the top with the puffy stars, which are called star puff, the one on the left is actually a piece of scrapbook paper, like 12 by 12 scrapbook paper, which is about the biggest paper that you can easily get your hands on without having to special order it. Some of them are three-dimensional. The star puffs at the top, you can tell from the picture, have some depth to them, but mostly they're a flat thing with assorted layers. This is kind of the battle if you do this, is finding the right kind of paper.
That's just beautiful.
Changing gears, modular origami is anything that is multiple pieces of paper together pretty much. So you will have a single module that you will fold. Usually that's pretty simple. One of the major modules is a sono unit, which is a very, very simple unit, which is what the spiky looking star at the bottom is made out of. The way that that's put together can be expanded to just about as big as you want to make it. The other one does not have a name. There's a bunch of YouTube tutorials for it under a kusudama, which is what basically origami balls are called, but it doesn't have a name that I can find. I don't know who designed it. There's really not a lot of information, but I have made so many of those in my life. The rainbow one with like the beaks on it was my signature a couple of years ago, and I had dozens of them around the house. Could not find a single one to present with today. That picture is ancient. It's the only good photo I could find, but I have folded many, many, many of them. The cube is called a furoshiki cube. That's what the person who designed it called it. I don't have any pictures of this in the thing, but there's also something called 3D origami, which is basically thousands and thousands of tiny triangles that get nested into each other, which is very much a kind of modular origami, but it's all over YouTube as well. Should you want to do this, what you need: paper, origami paper. Regular origami paper is usually 6 to 8 inches square. You can pull it off with that, but it is frankly too small to do tessellations with comfortably. Origami paper, which is a little bit thinner than regular paper, does come in a 12 by 12. I know because I have some, but it is a little bit harder to find. Alternately, scrapbook paper, tissue paper. The one in the photo is folded out of tissue paper, which was a task, but I'm very proud of it because I did pull it off in the end. I've also seen wrapping paper used. I've never tried it. If you're doing this, really the battle perpetually is finding paper big enough to get what you need to accomplish without it just getting impossibly small. Also, probably a knife, because some patterns actually require or request that you cut your paper into a triangle or maybe a hexagon before you start. But for some of the tessellations, particularly one on the next slide, having a hexagon shape really helps. Should you want to learn it, actual physical books. This is called Origami Tessellations, and it's basically the Bible for tessellations as far as those go. There's a couple of other books about this. There's also like blogs are still a thing in the origami community, so you can find some of those and lots of stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube videos of people folding, including of me. I have a semi-abandoned YouTube channel with a couple origami tutorials on it. And I had to name drop my favorite origami channel, which is Happy Folding. It's a woman named Sarah Adams who does tessellations, but she has a lot of more obscure stuff on her YouTube channel that I don't think there's video of anywhere else. Kind of my favorite thing about origami is that everybody's kind of agreed on a universal notation scheme. So a good percentage of the content that I have, the PDFs and the books that I have for origami are in Japanese, but it doesn't matter because you can usually 9 times out of 10 follow from just the graphics and the notations. Sometimes there will be a step in there somewhere where you're like, I have no idea. And that's where the YouTube videos are very important. So Sarah has saved me many times with stuff that I could not figure out how to do. And seeing her do it in the video was absolutely invaluable. And I think the next slides are mostly just pictures. Photo on the left is a bunch of hexagon tessellations. The gold one doesn't really show in the pictures because it's reflective, but it is folded exactly the same way as that bright blue one at the bottom, which is basically a series of like nested hexagons. The thing that's happening on the other side is something called a Chinese thread book, which this is the lore that gets attached to it. It's one of those things where they're like, oh, this is a very old Chinese thing that's meant to hold thread and needles if you are a seamstress or something like that. I don't know if that lore is accurate, but that's how it gets attached when you see video of it. Basically, there's multiple pockets in it. And so every color that you're looking at on the top has a pocket underneath it, and then it goes down and it goes down further. I took a video of myself unfolding this thing because I feel like it really does not make as much sense in the photos as it does in video. This is very clumsily filmed with my iPhone, but this is what's happening with this thing.
Wow.
So it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And the reason that it can do that is that it is a bunch of different pieces of paper stuck together. It's quite thick if you're holding it in your hands. There's a lot of layers to it, but the whole thing goes together, and it's just super cool. I don't know what I would do with it, but it was a really fun thing to fold and say that I had done. And my last slide is, it's a cake. It's not a super excellently assembled cake. I think I was 13 when I made this. You may remember Michael's, the craft store back in the before times, used to do those craft lesson thingies. And they had those Wilton cake decorating classes. And the last thing that you had to do to like pass was to do a cake with fondant. This was right at the same time that I was just found the instructions for that cube. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a cake out of it. So I did. And I thought the cake was so amusing that I just had to include it in the thing if I was going to talk about this, because who has made a cake out of an origami thing? But yeah, that's what I do. Very complicated origami.
That is just astonishing. That last multi-level pocket
Yes,
find
right?
the hidden trinket thing is a crazy wonderful idea. And I love the Star Puffs. Have you ever thought of incorporating that into a mixed media artwork? Because that would be astonishing and really interesting symbolically.
I've framed a couple of origami things before. I've never tried to incorporate them into anything else. This is kind of where my artistic talent ends. It's kind of paper and nothing else for me.
No, that's the tip of the iceberg of your artistic talent. And it's astonishing right there by itself. I mean, the amount of care and attention and hours
and hours, especially with the ones that are super dense, because you have to grid them. And that is the dullest thing in the world, because you're literally just folding a piece of paper into tinier and tinier and tinier, just squares. It takes hours and it is brain numbing. And then when you actually collapse it into a tessellation, you get about an hour of joy out of it. And then you have to start gridding something else.
It's astonishing.
It's a lot.
It's astonishing. I challenge you to one day stick one of those Star Puff things on a piece of paper at an oblique angle and sit and watch it and let it inspire you. you will start something.
Every time I look at them, I'm trying to find something to do with them. So I accept this challenge.
Well,
There.
I think you've got stuff there. You're brilliant.
Thank you.
That's all I've got to
try.
say about that.
Thank you, Savannah. That's insane and super cool.
Thank you.
Okay, Harris is up next with a different time-consuming craft, but also
Yeah, I was going to show you what I'm working on at the moment. So
Hi,
I was
Harris.
hi. I was watching Babylon 5, and I thought Bester looks cute in this jumper, doesn't he? And then I went back and I took a photo of the screen with my phone. So I kind of started knitting it. I finished.
Oh my God, you've just copied his jumper. That's
yeah,
brilliant.
I just copied his jumper. I found a pattern
From
for
a picture.
from a Fair Isle jumper, and I like did some little notes to alter it and drew some pictures. And yeah, I've got the front
Wow.
and the back, and I've just started the sleeves, which I will not show you because there's like 4 balls of yarn attached, which if I pick it up it falls apart. Yeah, so that's what I've been working on maybe the last 6 weeks or so. It's really thick, and I'm hoping I can finish it before it gets just too warm. I might wear it as a coat or something. At the beginning of the very first lockdown, I thought, right, what am I going to do with all this balls of yarn that I bought for projects and never actually done anything? There's that Douglas Adams quote about the long dark tea time of the soul, which felt very appropriate to sort of, you know, sitting around your house doing nothing and not being allowed to go out. So I made it into a blanket, which I don't know if you can see the words, sort of. But that
Oh
took
yeah, you can see them really well.
That took a lot of drawing.
How do you do that? How do you write in a knit? You can't put one stitch out of place, otherwise you screw it all up.
I drew it on like loads and loads of squared paper, all sellotaped together, and drawing it out was the most laborious thing. I'm not quite sure how I managed to get it all. I don't know what happened, but somehow I managed to do it. I drew it and redrew it, and I got some nice like Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide themed backing for it.
On the reverse, just as you do, as Jennifer said, as you do, you know.
Oh yeah, on the back it's all like the yarn carrying on, and it's a mess, so you have to cover it up so it doesn't get like caught on things.
That's brilliant. Brilliant, Harris.
And the last thing I wanted to show was something that I did a couple of years ago. So I have a Garak doll, but I made him the watermelon Garak outfit, which is like really, really tiny knitting. That's like lightweight and really thin, and yeah,
that is hilarious.
I found
this is wonderful, wonderfully creative knitting. It's so lovely.
A load of like Barbie and Ken doll patterns online, and they fit him if you make the legs a bit longer. The knitting things.
Fantastic, really awesome. When did you get into knitting? How did it hit you? Boom.
When I was a kid, my mum tried to teach me, and I thought it was really boring, and I just sat and wrapped the yarn around the needle and pretended that I'd done a load of knitting, and she gave up. And then in my late 20s, I thought, right, I'm going to knit a scarf. So I bought some yarn and I bought some needles, and I cried a lot. And I knit the thing that was supposed to be straight and came out like a triangle, and then I just got better at it.
Wow. Well, you certainly did get better at it, that's for sure. It's one of those things that, especially when you're young, people really tease you if you're knitting, and I can't think why. When I was young, some people were knitting, and people got teased mercilessly for knitting because it was sort of something that only grandparents did.
Yeah, it was spectacularly uncool when I was a kid. But a school I worked at a couple of years ago, I finished my working day at the school, finished at their lunch break time. So I said, why don't I do a knitting club with some kids? And I didn't know that knitting could be a contact sport. But there you go. They got far too excited about it. Once we got over the excitement of we're doing this thing, I just sat with this group of 6 kids, and they kind of forgot that I was there, and we'd all get on with our knitting, and they'd chat, and I found out all sorts of things because I just kind of like became this fly on the wall to like the minutiae of their lives. It was so great.
So they talked like you weren't there.
It was great. I got to think about everyone's grandmas. I got to know their opinions on recycling, all these things, and just like school gossip. It was really interesting.
That's fantastic. I think it's a brilliant thing for kids to do.
There was a queue for my knitting club. I was like, I can't do more than 6 kids at a time, and they were clamoring. They're like, has anyone dropped out of knitting club? So I think it's cool again.
I think it's hip. Yeah, you're right. It's secretly become hip while I wasn't noticing because I don't have a child who is school age. That's amazing. Amazing, Harris. Brilliant.
That is awesome. I'm going to need you to take a photo of that Garrick doll and send it to me so I can forward it on to Andy because he'll get a kick out of it.
We got to get those guys back.
I'll do that now, Mel.
Thank you. We're going to have a brief interlude while we share one of.
Oh yeah, Tom sent me this because someone was asking. I think it was Elney who was saying, "Have you got any art?" That's, as you can see, it's hanging up by a window in the barn in our house. And I think I probably painted that when I was about 19, something like that. And that was me just doodling with watercolor. My mum put a rose in a pot, and I was like, "That's very cute." And so I just sort of tried to experiment. And also I was playing around with perspective, which is something I was trying to mess with because I'd just seen some artists who are really yanking perspective around and playing with it in a way that made me excited. So there's a little rose cutting, frankly. Yeah, and I think there's some more stuff knocking around the house, but Tom can't find it yet. So there, because I've been banging on about everybody else's art. I do like to paint from time to time.
That's gorgeous.
But I just
Yeah, Sid, that is beautiful. And that's not what I expected at all. I don't know. I think I expected
something so figurative,
something a little more closer to Quentin Blake's illustrations.
Oh, okay. No,
that's beautiful.
It was something I was really interested in learning. So I was teaching myself how to use watercolor. And so I was really quite proud of the actual rose itself, because you have to mess with watercolor to get it to do that kind of stuff.
Your choice of subject.
It is a beautiful rose, isn't it? Yeah. And it's the kind of rose that my mother actually hated. She wouldn't have them in the garden. She liked wild species roses, really, messy ones that didn't. But these standard roses, she thought that was really beautiful and kept it in the house. She wouldn't put it in the garden, but she definitely put it in the house. And it caught my eye because I thought that was one of the most romantic looking roses. So there you go. I'll find some more one of these days, or maybe I'll be able to paint something again. Who knows?
And that's you just messing around with watercolors.
That was me trying to learn how to use watercolors. Yeah.
My watercolors are still in the package from when Genevieve and I bought watercolors, brushes, and paper at the beginning of lockdown, and they are still in the package.
You just have to get them out. I mean, the difficult thing with watercolor is that if your pencil marks, you have to be really careful. But then when you realize that, nothing has an edge, you don't really have to use pencils, but it's very hard not to use pencils. You need something to draw to, a template. But then you can rub them off later. You just have to be patient.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Thank you for sharing that. That's gorgeous.
No problem.
Leia is up next.
Hello.
I'm going to be sharing about my friendship bracelets that I make.
Oh, fantastic, Leia.
I'm waiting for Mel's pictures.
Yes. Go. Oh, gosh.
So I started making friendship bracelets back in 1st and 2nd grade on the playground at recess. You basically had to either get one of the other girls to teach you or just stare at them while they were working and hope that you figured out what they were making. And it was just knots and crazy patterns. If I understand the history correctly, it came from like Central and South America, and then during the 1980s, it got brought up to North America, and then it kind of just, kids just kind of latched onto it as a craft you can make and pass out as a symbolism of friendship.
I love the black one on the last page. That was a really intricate piece of work. I mean, it looks quite simple, can easily miss it because it's so thin compared to the others, but there's some detail in there.
It was very difficult because it is about, I think it's 6 strings, but they were all black. And I had to keep remembering which one was going what direction because they were all the same color.
It's really pretty. Really, they're all really pretty, of course, but that one's, you can appreciate the work that's gone into that.
The top one on this page was a new pattern I tried out. There's actually a mistake in it, and I just kept making it because you can make a mistake and continue. That was partly actually because I got distracted during the Sid City Social Club when I think you said something and I was distracted, realized I had made a mistake, and just decided to keep making the bracelet.
Some mistakes improve things, and I think that particular mistake has improved that bracelet. I can see the two black triangles on the left-hand side, if they're the ones you're referring to.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be repeated.
Actually, I like that little imperfection.
They look like the Enterprise, the single diamonds. Is that why you chose?
Oh, yeah, they do.
No, I was just trying stuff out. Sometimes I find a pattern I like on a couple of websites, and maybe I don't like the whole pattern. Like for this one, I started kind of like mirroring it. When you get used to it, you can like flip the patterns around or change it. One of the things I made sure for my bracelets is I did not like the fact that you had to tie them on and basically wait for them to fall apart. I hated that. because some of
So
them are extremely intricate.
So you put those on the iron shell clasp.
Yeah, it's a bead. And what I made sure is that it was removable. And one of the things I do is that loop is self-contained usually, unless their strings don't duplicate.
Yeah.
So it's a self-contained loop. There is no knot. I put it directly in the middle of the thread before starting the bracelet. And then I finish it off so I have a self-contained loop with no knot. There's only one knot in the entire bracelet, and that is the one holding on the bead. And that knot gets my wonderful frenemy, Gorilla Glue, so it is never coming undone.
You're not kidding. These are just beautiful, Leah. I mean, they're really gorgeous.
Yeah.
I completely understand them being South American, but they also really remind me of Africa.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different cultures that have used knotting for different types of arts, for belts, for bracelets, for different things. It's not something I think unique to one culture. I think a lot of them have come up with the knotting technique. And then a lot of this is just, you know, releasing teenagers into the wild to create their own patterns and then share them online nowadays.
Gosh.
The blue and white one, there is a mistake in it.
I can't see it.
The place where I accidentally skipped
Mel can
a
see
stitch and I ended up with white on the outside corner instead of the blue.
Totally ruined it for me.
Oh. This one I actually had to create from another bracelet. I couldn't find the pattern online again. I think I found it now, but at the time I was desperate and the internet failed me. So I had to deconstruct this bracelet to figure out how to make it again. I had to destroy the bracelet.
Wow. And did you make it again?
I did make it again. And one of my friends reminded me I did make him a bracelet. He did not take a picture of him wearing it, and his plushie is wearing my bracelet.
Well, I guess you took that as a compliment.
Yeah. And that one has a gold thread that was so difficult. I am never using the metallic threads to make a bracelet ever again. I had to unknot it so many times and then fix it.
Does he know how much effort that took?
He does, because he didn't get it for like a year because I was so frustrated by the gold thread. For unknotting, it actually is attached to a little bracelet. It's a scrap bracelet. I have a little, I think it's an embroiderer thread actually, because it's not stabby pointy, it's just dull pointy. And I use this to unknot when there are severe mistakes. Like sometimes there's a mistake I can't just keep the pattern working around. It's a mistake that the string went completely the wrong direction. I have to undo it. Or the knots can flip. Like you could be knotting a red string on a blue string, and when you pull it up too tight, it flips. And instead of being a red knot like it was supposed to, it flips and becomes a blue knot.
Oh, yes, yes. I know exactly what you mean.
And sometimes you can tug it and it'll flip back to the correct color. Other times you just have to unknot the knot and start again. I just have to tug it open.
That it correlates with the secret of tying a bow tie. Yes, exactly. You know what I mean.
I do like bow ties, so yes, I understand.
Thank you, Leah.
That is just amazing, Leah. Just beautiful. And do you are you still giving them as friendship bracelets?
Yes, in fact, at least 2 people in this social club have something that I made at this point, and probably more people will get something eventually. I just need wrist sizes or keychains. I make keychains if you don't wear bracelets.
What do you do with most of them? Because I'm guessing you make a lot of them because you're experimenting and finding new things that excite you.
I keep them in a bundle until I find somebody to take them. Or sometimes I just make it. I'll be like, I have this new shirt. I wish I had something that matched it. I guess I will go make something to match my new shirt.
That's fantastic. And do you embroider too? Did you do your own shirt? I'm guessing they're more.
No, this was actually from a used clothing store.
Oh, it's lovely too.
I've never tried embroidery. For all the embroidery thread I own for making friendship bracelets.
Exactly. No,
I've never tried embroidery. At least collecting friendship bracelet embroidery thread, it takes up a lot less space than all of my friends who are yarn nuts and have entire like shelves full of yarn.
That's true. That's beautiful, Leah. Thank you very much. They were just gorgeous, just inspiring.
Indeed. Helen, do you want to jump in real quick and show your project that you've been working on?
Sure.
Just got your email.
Ah, fantastic. These are a pair of
Helen.
socks. Hello.
Hello.
These are a pair of socks, and I've been knitting them primarily in Zoom meetings. So
they look so comfortable.
I finally finished them. So I have 2 socks. Show down the front. So that's down the front of the sock. This little stained glass window.
Yeah.
That's not going to
They're
improve the
also
light.
Remind me a bit of the origami star puffs.
Ah, yes.
They're
yes.
really lovely.
So yeah, I don't know if the colours quite showing up, but they're red.
They're
and blue
showing up.
and-
It's got
oh,
you've
good.
got rainbow colours in there with a
Yeah.
couple of the kind of on the fluorescent side, the orange and pink are very bright. Gorgeous.
So those I've been knitting primarily during Zoom meetings, and it's taken me since about September to make them. So
They are
there's
the
been
sort
a
of socks
labour
I
of
would
love.
just wear around the house all the time. You know, I would just come in, put those on, and that would be me done for the rest of the evening.
Oh well,
I would be-
it's almost winter here, so they're going to get a lot of use this winter.
Where are you? Oh, whereabouts?
Adelaide.
Oh gosh, okay. So how cold does it get in Adelaide in winter?
It doesn't get very cold.
It doesn't get cold.
Down to about 10 degrees.
Oh, okay, that's
during the
nippy.
day.
That's pretty cold. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that's
Sometimes we
real.
get 0 overnight, but yeah, it doesn't really get cold. We definitely don't get snow.
Oh yeah, and you've got probably a ton of oleanders and plants like that around the place that would die if they got anywhere near frost. So you'd know about it. Well, those are gorgeous, I have to say.
Thank you.
And what's next on the agenda?
Slippers. I already started. Someone was talking about buckets of yarn. I've got a wall of yarn. People call them grandma slippers because I think everyone's grandma knits this style. Little pom-poms on them. It's a very common pattern.
They're
apparently.
very comfy though. They look really
So-
comfy. Well, they're brilliant, and you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautifully done, Helen. My sister-in-law makes me a pair of those. We call them slipper socks here.
Ah.
For Christmas every year. Yes. So I love them.
My son already wants a pair in red because we're Spider-Man colours.
There you go.
Everything has to be Spider-Man.
Yep. It'll take you no time.
No, this one I knitted in 2 days. So
Okay.
I'll have
All
a
right,
pair
you
for
really
everyone
will.
so for the
Yeah,
family.
you will.
A little bit easier than the socks. Gorgeous socks.
Definitely. Thank you.
you for sharing, Helen.
That is so much work. And look how beautiful the wool ends up.
And this
That
is a
is-
comb and hackle where after I clean the wool, then I have to, comb it through this to try to straighten out the fibers to prepare it for spinning.
Wow, Pat, that's astonishing.
And that's my Hanson mini spinner that I use to spin, some wool with. I have other, spinning tools as well. And this is a aromatherapy drop spindle. I'm still trying to teach myself how to use it because I've never really used drop spindles all that much because it takes a lot of patience
Yeah.
to try to, use a drop spindle without it dropping to the floor.
Which is in the name, but
Yep.
hey.
And this, I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. It's spelled Nostepinne, and I think it's pronounced Nostepin, where you can make balls of yarn with it. And this picture is my weaving loom.
This is all astonishing. And you've put together all this equipment over the years?
Well, I've been collecting equipment over the years. I'm saving up for a blending board where I can combine different colors of fiber.
Yeah. And is this a profession for you? Do you sell your craft?
Well, I haven't really sold anything. I've been when I'm not researching my other stuff, then I try to keep my hands busy, with handicraft stuff.
God, it's just amazing. I mean, you've got a museum of artifacts there. I mean, those tools they've been used for probably centuries. The drop spindle, did you call it?
It's a drop spindle. I also have a supported spindle, and I have
together they would just sort each other out.
Maybe because I got several different spindles, and also have a charka. In fact, this is a book charka.
Yeah.
Before I can actually work it, it has to be on a solid surface. I can spin on this, and got a little piece of cotton here. I've been trying to learn how to spin with it.
My goodness.
I've also been experimenting with spinning silk. I got some bamboo that I have to experiment with.
Gosh, that's astonishing. I've got a pair of shoes made with bamboo. There's a company I think called Allbirds that makes stuff out of recycled things and wool and bamboo and stuff. And I've got a few pairs of their shoes.
I think what got me into this was actually from my genealogy research, because when I started researching my ancestors, I kept wondering, how did they live? What did they do? Because, back in the 1600s, there were no shopping malls. There were no grocery stores. There was no internet. Where did they get their shoes from, since they couldn't very well send, an email to England saying, send us some stuff over. Yeah, they had to basically make do with what was there right there on the spot. Grow their own food, make their own shoes, spin their thread, their own yarn, weave their own
Yeah,
cloth.
people were good at lots of stuff. People had to be good at lots of stuff. And what's wonderful about Sid City Social Club, if you hang out for long enough, you're going to get good at lots of stuff, or at least you could be interested in lots of stuff. Because so many people do so many interesting things. But back in the day, I think you had to be pretty, you know, a jack of trades, maybe a master of one as well.
If I can chime in for 2 seconds, Hi, I'm actually going to college right now for biological anthropology for a focus in public health, communication, and education. And the interesting portion about the whole crafts movement during the medieval ages was that there was a ton of people, especially from the merchant class, that ended up expanding not just the guilds. The guilds ended up having and consolidating a lot of power, but it ended up turning into and versioning what we have as very specific trades. And those trades still in a lot of Europe are within those guilds. Like there's a ton of apprenticeships and things that are still going on that persist even throughout modern times.
Absolutely.
That is one of those things that was really interesting. So whereas farriers or cobblers, you don't get a formal education in it, you have to go and apprentice to a lot of them.
That's so true, Ari. We all had our guild names. I don't think the Fardil was a guild's name. In fact, definitely wasn't. But in the Western world, certainly. I don't know what they did in the Middle East in terms of describing their trade. That would have been a whole different deal. But I love that. I love that all those different. But the thing that I was kind of saddened by, which is what I was just saying to Pat, was that we're losing skills really quickly. And but thank you, Ari. That's really useful. Really
One of the things that I'm taking right now is actually jewelry making.
And you have to come and talk to us about it.
A little tease for our final presenter there. Pat, thank you so much. That was really interesting.
You're welcome.
Yeah, brilliant, Pat.
Very cool.
You've got like a museum's worth of stuff in your house.
What's ironic because my dad used to work at the Smithsonian.
Maybe
this is one of the things that just was kind of a cool coincidence in a way.
Yeah.
When they first set up the exhibit of the hyperbolic crochet coral reef in the Museum of Natural History in DC.
Yeah.
As I was, walking around the building, because that was the same building my dad used to work in, and I was trying to find the office where my dad used to work. I couldn't find the anthropology department, so one of the security officers noticed me looking kind of lost, and he asked me what I was looking for, and I explained that back in the 50s, my dad used to be in the anthropology department, and I was wondering where it was. He pointed over to where the hyperbolic crochet exhibit was currently sitting, and he says, "That's where your dad used to work." My work was in my dad's old office.
Oh my goodness. What a beautiful circle.
He'd
be so proud that you were part of that exhibition.
Yes. I think, wherever dad was at that moment, I think he was just smiling.
He's chuckling to himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Pat. We appreciate you sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, I've got somebody who didn't sign up, but I'm going to let him talk anyway.
Absolutely.
Do I talk now?
That's you. You talk
now.
Oh,
Tom!
Amazing.
Hello.
How you doing, dude?
Hello, mister. How are you? I'm very good, thanks. I'm really good. It's good to see you.
Likewise. Estonia, man. You've got it working. That's beautiful.
In Estonia, I know.
Yeah.
I'm working.
Wow.
Finally. Really, you've got a gorgeous beard. Look at you.
Oh, I know. Check it out. Look, it's massive at the moment. It's ridiculous. Look at all the white. It's crazy.
Totally, you want to see a white beard? That's what white beard.
Yeah, I know. I'm coming, man. I'm coming. I'm gonna get there. Check that out, though. Look at this. That's looking crazy.
Oh, yeah, you've got some hair too.
Wow.
Well, thanks for sending the picture, by the way. Everybody liked it.
Oh, good. The rose.
Yeah.
The rose is in Pride of Place. That's a beautiful piece of artwork, man. Love that.
I miss our kitchen. Look, that's our kitchen, everybody.
That's our kitchen.
Tom grew up there, and I grew up there.
This is the greatest piece of cooking implementation in the world. It's an absolute mess right now. So I'm sorry about that.
That's how it should look, because you've got kids running around.
Big piece of wood, yeah, exactly. Big piece of wood is a beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to have in a kitchen.
How is everyone?
Generally, we're all good, hanging out, doing the garden.
Yeah.
We're
brilliant. Well, I miss you guys very publicly.
Yeah, likewise. It's been ages. I'm sure everybody's heard this already, but I came late to the party. But how's Estonia?
Estonia's great. I mean, everybody's lovely. You've got a lovely bunch of people making this film who were really cool. They were at film school together, the cinematographer, the producer, and they've kind of moved on and started and making their own film. And they managed to get a couple of actors, a lot of actors together to do it. And that's pretty great. I'm here for another 2 weeks. It's very cold. And it's minus territory all the time. And I don't know how they manage. And they don't have much of a summer, so it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, brutal.
Brutal. Very.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Nice.
It's
so good.
like a travelogue video from.
I have seen it. It is an awesome travelogue video. It's so good.
It's very amateur.
The whole family sat down and watched it. It's loving it. A very nice hairbrush, by the way.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Well, if
I went online and I bought one too, so it's coming in a couple of days. Love it.
It's a rip-off. I got ripped off.
Well, we needed a review. That's where I was going with this, with Tom's beautiful flowing locks. Would you recommend that brush for him?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Send it over, dude.
I will. I mean, I've got it. I can show you. I still use it.
What was it called? It was the VX9 or the... It's awesome.
I love that it's like a car. Like it's.
I know.
Yeah, it's like, I can't remember what it was called, but it was something like a Denman P45 2QX.
That's exactly. It's the 2QX, which is the tricky bit.
There it is. That's the puppy. Pretty special. Pretty special. You see? Fits ergonomically in the hand.
Yeah.
Very useful. And gets through hair quite rapidly.
Wow. Special.
You know what's really funny? Is that there are about 50 people here with us talking while we're saying.
Oh, I know. I'm so sorry. I literally haven't spoken.
You forget because it's Zoom.
Months.
It's
I know.
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry, and I spend my life on Zoom at the moment. It's crazy. I have one last tiny little bit of interesting Grade-Orphils news.
You've got internet.
Satellite. We got it.
Yay! We've got it.
Oh yeah, that's why I can video you right now.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I know.
That is huge for our family.
Huge. It's huge. No, it's huge.
Yeah.
We've been on dial-up for the last 5 years, and we didn't have internet before that, basically. So this is big. It's a big day.
It's
You
huge.
know what that means? Now Tom can game with you guys.
I know.
Exactly. Properly too. I can contend now, not just be in the background.
No more excuses about latency.
No more. Exactly. Do it.
That's fantastic, bro.
Yeah.
Really happy. That's really good. I'm really made my day seeing you. Thanks for organizing it.
It's totally Colin and Mel. They're such an epic crew. Those guys, I love them.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry, I'll stop talking now.
Big kiss. Big kiss.
Big kiss.
Thank you, Tom. We needed that.
Yeah.
We have one more presenter today, and it is Tanya, and she's going to talk about jewelry.
Hello.
Hi, Tanya. Good to see you again.
I'm a bit unprepared, so I will do a lot of stammering and
just improvise.
Find English words.
It doesn't matter. It's not important to be prepared. It's important to be here.
So a few years ago, I started to attend for a weekend or two in a year jewelry courses, which were offered at the evening school adult education thingy. And my father brought me this blue stone from India. So that was one of the pieces I produced in the course.
Wow.
And you had to think up design. And then I went to the teacher and said, do you think, Billy, I can do that? And then she said, oh, well, maybe this stone, you just have to glue it. If you look at exactly, there is a small vein of different color on the stone.
And that's the resin, yeah?
So this is just glued in because the stone is not really symmetric. So it was not so easy to...
absolutely beautiful. Do you know what it is? Is it a lapis lazuli?
Yes.
And is that a gold flex in there?
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite something.
Yeah, and so just for the size, you can see it here.
Oh my God, it looks beautiful on you. Yeah, I can see. Gosh, that's just amazing.
So that was a completely other technique is to do a wax model, and then you put this in a kind of plaster, and then you pull in the liquid metal.
Right.
because it can be three-dimensional with this.
God,
And the
that's
first
beautiful
ring I
too.
made, that looks gold, but it's silver. Gold would be too expensive because this ring is really heavy, and you
Right.
realize that you have to make it thinner. It's just like about the same size as this ring.
Oh, okay, yeah. Gosh,
But
okay,
that's
so that would
thicker.
be quite big.
Yeah.
It is very beautiful. It looks like a meteorite.
Yeah, I tried to, I just was creative at that evening. It's a silver color.
Wow, that's
And
lovely.
yeah, well, some other rings. There's a ring in the background which has two rings that's made of a fork.
Ah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and that looks very easy because you have just a long and round metal and you
Yeah.
bend it over something which has the size of your finger. But because this is a rather thick metal, it was very hard to put it around and around.
Do you heat it up to bend it?
Yeah.
It's really pretty. And I love that it's not quite symmetrical.
So the workshop for the weekend courses was in the cellar of a sports hall. So at the weekend, sometimes we were sitting there and hammering and sawing and drilling. And above, there were a lot of kids screaming and playing basketball or football or whatever. So it was a rather strange atmosphere. And you got very concentrated and you sit there and you don't sit comfortably and you really work hard, but your mind gets empty.
Yeah.
It's really some kind of relaxing thing to do.
Yeah, like a flow state.
Yeah. When I go to a museum now and I look at the old, like Roman or even older jewelry, and I wonder how they did it with the ancient tools they had, because we have gas things to heat up, burn, and then to braise or smoke. I think it's to braise if you have liquid to fix together some metal.
Absolutely.
So that's a piece where I really used gold, but only the small in the middle for the stone, to set the stone.
Wow.
It is made from gold, but everything else is from silver.
It's very pretty. Is that a sapphire?
Just a kind of blue stone. I hardly ever buy really precious gemstone.
Yeah.
It's
quite
gorgeous.
Expensive
to buy all this silver, and you don't want to ruin really expensive stuff. I'm still very amateur.
Well, you're not ruining anything.
It's like more like a spot shop. That's the right word. It's not really professional.
Very pretty.
So that was inspired, let's guess, by a lot of the rings. And this is I've got it here, and it's three-dimensional. So I saw it from a plate of silver, and then you put it in a mold, and you just hammer it so it gets a bit more natural.
That's gorgeous. Lovely. Is the twine, is that leather?
No, it's silk.
Ah, okay. Really pretty.
And that's the ring I'm putting here.
That's very pretty too.
And
oh, wow.
This is also kind of three-dimensional.
Yeah. It's great to see what the scale is. So it's lovely when you hold it
up. That's why I brought that jewelry down.
Thank you.
I haven't used this stuff for a year. Normally, when I go to my office, I'm just putting on some of these. But when I'm sitting at home, I'm not wearing jewelry.
No, it's gorgeous. Yes, it's kind of weird, I guess, to wear your best jewelry at home. But Nana's aunt, I went to the supermarket one day in Los Angeles, and there she was in the supermarket by complete coincidence. And she was wearing her tiara in the supermarket with a full ball gown. And then I helped her pack her oranges into her paper bag at the end, and off she went. But I thought that was quite special. She just really dressed up to go shopping. So it's not too weird. Ooh, look at that.
This one?
That's fantastic. That's really fierce.
Yeah, if you really look exactly, it's not, the triangles are a bit different in size, and I like it.
Yeah.
But it's not too perfect.
No, it's lovely. It's very shark-like to me. I love it.
And then there are some matching earrings as well.
Very beautiful. Ooh, look at that. Where do you get your inspiration?
Let's say, like, I start to think about what to make a few weeks before the course starts. And I'm sitting in the conference call and I start scribbling on a piece of paper and gathering ideas. But that was more like I had some pieces of silver left over.
Yeah.
I just heated them up to put them together again. And then I squeezed them in a machine like for noodles. And I put also some material in between to give the structure. And then for my uncle, he was an architect, but he also had a lot of craft things going on and art things going on. I got some of the stones from him. And so I had this piece of metal and I said, well, what am I going to do now with this? And then I got the idea to put in front.
I mean, it's really gorgeous.
This one.
That's very pretty.
And I like it very much, and I wear it quite often.
Yeah, I love that.
One day it fell down and it was squeezed.
Yeah.
Now it's not.
Well,
not
you can
really
make another one.
anymore. And
look at all that stuff.
Some other things. This is one of the easiest things I made, very from the beginning. It's not from silver, but from brass.
Right.
And it's very simple, but I like the effect. And I've got the matching earrings.
They were so pretty, yeah.
A circle of brass and then put in the mold and hammered to get it in a three-dimensional thing. And I think it really looks very elegant.
It's very pretty. Yeah, absolutely.
And then a variation of the same thing is a silver with just a lot of holes in it. Just drilling and drilling and drilling with different types of steel.
Wow, gorgeous.
And
is there any symbolism to the one on the left there, the CN with the cross? Whatever that is.
Yes, I think it was something symbol I saw on the Gladiator movie, but I don't know.
Okay. Got it. Ooh,
That's
yeah, lovely.
And it's really difficult for the earrings with the gemstones because you have to fix on the back of the earring. You need to fix the thing to put through your ear.
Yeah.
You need to heat up the metal to do that, and you need to heat up the metal to fix the ring which holds the jewel.
Right.
If you heat it at the same time, it might fall apart. And then
of course.
I needed
that's a real expertise. Oh, it's gorgeous.
I had help with that. And
it's
just
really
for the size, rather small.
And is that a costume jewel in there, or is it a piece of jadeite that's semi-precious?
I don't remember. I just went
it's not important.
I had some stones and I said, well, I like something green. And I think it's a semi-precious stone because it was not too expensive.
Yeah, I love the semi-precious stones. There are lots of lovely ones, like the lapis.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Well, how delightfully talented you are. Everyone tonight has come up with something completely different and fantastic. It's been such a pleasure to see all these wonderful things. What a treat. I come back on a Friday and here you all are, all with your stuff, which is such wonderful stuff. I shall have to come back again.
I like how Tanya says she's an amateur and all the rest of us are going,
yeah, what?
I think you have some potential shoppers in the chat, Tanya. If you would like to start up an online store, you might check back on that.
So many of you should be selling all sorts of lovely stuff.
All right, well, that was our last planned activity for the day. So we can go ahead and wrap it up unless Sid wants to take us on another virtual tour of your hotel room.
You've seen it now. It's over. That's it. That's the fun stuff. My bedroom, of course, but that just looks like any hotel bedroom.
And then next week's theme is self-defense and self-care.
Hurrah!
All right, and we may have another guest appearance from Sid on Friday. Fingers crossed. Thanks, everybody. We're gonna
see everybody. Have a lovely week.
Bye.
Have a good
week. Stay safe.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Good to see you again, Sid, and everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Sid.
Get sleep, Sid.